roads have been leading southward since President Duterte won. The push to drive investments outside the capital has investors casting their nets further. But where are the pockets of opportunity? Joining us on this Friday, Chris Nelson from the British Chamber of Commerce, or the BritCham. Okay, Chris, we do have some data here from your office. If I could just call up the chart.
Sure.
Yeah, so back in 2015, UK exports to the Philippines grew by 38%, topping the 74.4 billion, or it's 74.4 billion US dollars last year. Can you make these figures come alive for us? What did we buy more of from the UK?
Yeah, let me just say clarification. First of all, the total trade to the Philippines is 74 billion, but we grew by 38%. And the reason it grew, actually, the key areas were electrical machinery, pharmaceuticals. We also had some development in food and beverages and cars. So a lot of focus in those areas. But from our side, the British Chamber, actually, a lot of SMEs, and they're looking at ICT. They're looking at beauty care products, they're looking at food and beverage, and they're looking even at environmental to support the economy in terms of waste.
All right, well, let me just refresh your memory. I did go through all your published works from before. And last year, your strategy was to focus on the power sector, most specifically to market Philippines to the British power sector in renewable energy. Tell us how that went last year. Did it come to fruition?
I think it did. I mean, I have to say, obviously, it hasn't come to fruition in the sense of exact business, but I think we've got companies interested, and companies are obviously still interested in the renewable sector. I still think power is an opportunity. It's one of the ones we're going to focus on when we go down to Mindanao.
So it's still continuing, you're extending this 2016 strategy to this year?
I think we are continuing it. Power and infrastructure will always be a focus, and I think it's linking into the Mindanao, where we're going to be going, obviously, at the end of the month. So that's there. We're also broadening out to other segments. Okay,
so you're going down to Mindanao. At the moment, before this trade mission next week or next week, where do your investments or investments from the UK to Mindanao stand? Is it very little, not a lot?
I think, obviously, in terms of it compared to the Philippines as a whole, it's obviously less, but there are British companies that have operated there. Obviously, if you look also, we do business and trade. I mean, obviously, everyone knows that Mindanao is very strong in agribusiness. Bananas is actually developed, in fact, our ambassador said it was actually started out in terms of the seedling from Kew Gardens in London. So there is a link there historically.
Nice.
We're going to go there, though, to look at other opportunities.
Such as?
Well, we're looking at things, for example, we're going to do agribusiness, infrastructure, ICT. We've got major companies. One of our key sponsors is also professional services. We're Pru Life. We're going to have GSK with us. We're going to have KPMG. And we leave also Standard Bank. So there's a lot of opportunity of big companies, also small to medium-sized enterprises.
Okay, so there is definitely that focus also on MSMEs.
Yes.
Investing here in the Philippines. Earlier, right before we started the show, I asked you a question, and you actually clarified to me that this trade mission that you're bringing, a delegation of some 20 plus, delegates for that matter, and you're saying that they're not all British.
No. So if you look at the British Chamber, we're about 280 companies, but it's actually a mixture of British and local companies, and really we act as like a networking. And therefore, we're going to be bringing from here delegates to Mindanao. It's in line, of course, with the plan to develop growth outside of Metro Manila. So we anticipate, of course, you'll have British companies like I've named, Pru Life, GSK. You'll also have some local companies as well, and we're going to try and do matchmaking when we're in Davao.
Can you share with me which local companies these are?
Not at the moment, but we intend to send out a list very shortly. But we're going to be also meeting very local companies in Davao. I went for a pre-trip just recently, and I met Amflo, which actually does the container port, one of the container ports. It's obviously very strong in bananas, and it's also strong in industrial parks and commercial. So we're going to be seeing their facilities, because obviously there's an opportunity for companies to base themselves in Davao.
Yeah, we've just had Anflo over here also about 6 weeks ago. Anyone else apart from Anflo, that local bread company from Mindanao?
So we're going to look also at some of the local entities, like we have a local company there called Sancris, who are also one of the suppliers of ICT. We're looking to obviously work closely with the local administration. By the way, one of our partners there is the Davao chambers
Chamber
of
of
Commerce.
Commerce,
So they're going to be speaking at the event. We also have Mindanao Development Council. We have Mindanao Business Council. We're getting a lot of strong support, and we anticipate a very good forum, which will be on the 31st of March.
All right, take a look at this. I know it says EU at the top with 27%, but at the moment, you're still lumped in there with them, right? So let's break this down. It is the top source of FDI, at least in the first half of 2016. As we know, FDI kind of slowed down in the third quarter. We expect to pick up. So a lot of this is, well, you know, people have been weighing in and they're saying people are on a wait and see kind of mode, trying to assess the political risk coming out of the administration. Where do you stand on that? We've spoken to Gunter Taus, we've spoken to a bunch of other chambers, and they're saying like, okay, the representative here, meaning your peer, would be, since you live here, you're kind of more, have a factual opinion of things. Are British investors scared or worry of setting foot in the Philippines?
Let me be very clear. From the
up?
chamber side, we tend to deal with small to medium-sized enterprises. Although actually one of the big investors that's come in recently would be Dyson's. Dyson's has set up a plant. But I think in terms of small to medium-sized enterprises, actually it's growing in interest. We've had over 1,000 companies in 3 years. We've just had companies set up business recently. We just had the Great British Festival, 500,000 visitors. And we've just had a company starting doing business in terms of whiskey imports.
Ooh.
So I still think from SME size, from the British companies, the Philippines is still a good, attractive story for growth. And of course, Mindanao fits into that because we're looking for growth outside the main urban area of Metro Manila.
What about a really quick, before I let you go, a quick wish list? I mean, you've been here in the Philippines for a while. What has changed, what has not in terms of barriers to entry for foreign ownership issues and all of that, red tape?
Okay, very quickly, I think we're very supportive in the 10-point plan of opening up the Constitution. Obviously, in terms of foreign ownership, we think that will boost FDI if that occurs. I think there has been obviously developments in terms of where I've been here 14 years. I've seen tremendous growth. But I think we'd also like to see ease of doing business improve, which I think is part of the focus by the Department of Trade and Industry, who are supporting us, Mon Lopez. And I think the repeal, which is making things more competitive, because that's actually the big cry when companies come, ease of doing business, which I think is a focus here. That's my quick take.
That is absolutely true, and that is something you have in common with other chambers. Thank you very much for your
Thank you
insights,
for your time.
Chris Nelson, and good luck
Thank you.
in Mindanao on the 31st. Right, still to come, all lies. That is what the group's campaigning against Secretary Gina Lopez had to say about her answers at the last hearing.